You promised never to spy on us again. That's the gist of a communique put out by the French government reminding the United States of a 2013 call to order, a communique inspired by a morning read of the papers, which in turn triggered an emergency security cabinet meeting, a summoning of the U.S. ambassador, and a phone call between the French and U.S. presidents. Yes, Wikileaks strikes again with the revelation that the U.S. spied on, count them, 1, 2, 3 French presidents. Why snoop on an ally? What did they learn? Beyond fodder for water cooler gossip, what impact? More broadly, since WikiLeaks started, and in the 2 years since Edward Snowden's revelations blew the lid off the massive scale of U.S. surveillance, has whistleblowing made the world a better place? Today in the France 24 debate, the U.S. spies on its oldest ally. With us to talk about it, Yves Pozzo di Borgo. He is senator and vice president of the Senate's European Affairs Commission. You're with the opposition UDI party. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Want to thank you. Nice to see you. Nice to see Louis Bernard, the founder of risk consultants Layer Cake.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the show. Welcome back as well to intellectual property lawyer Etienne Drouard. Following this story, as he followed the visit by François Hollande to Washington last year, is our own Douglas Herbert. The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation, and you have on Facebook and Twitter our hashtag F24debate. Before we look into what's trending now as France leaks, roll back the clock, if you will, to January 2014. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Given the understandable attention that this issue has received, I've made clear to the intelligence community that unless there is a compelling national security purpose, we will not monitor the communications of heads of state and government of our close friends and allies.
Has he kept his word, Douglas Herbert? After reading today's paper, we're a bit startled.
Well, you probably saw, like the rest of us, the initial White House reaction to these latest revelations. And what it was, they really, as you say in English, hedged their bets. A very cautious statement, because what they said, and you have to read the wording carefully, it was, we are not now and we will not target the communications of the French president. What they didn't mention is the past. What has happened in the past, and it's not irrelevant. Let's remember, to be fair, the documents span the period from 2006 to 2012, and they
So he did keep his word when he was speaking.
Well, this is what's interesting about it.
There is no new spying.
You have to really look at this timeline, because the only documents that have been released as of now, as of this hour when we're all here talking and debating this, they end in May 2012, just a few days after François Hollande basically came to power, took office. But they date back to a period before even Barack Obama was in office. And the pledges that we're talking about, including that little soundbite that you just played, were all made well outside, after the time frame of the very last document that has been revealed as of now by WikiLeaks. So it's interesting. We can't say for sure tonight. You know, people are saying the U.S. hasn't respected its obligations and its commitments. But what's interesting is if you look strictly at the timeline, we don't know enough at this hour if they do. And in fact, when I was at the French presidential palace today, that's one of the points made by former Prime Minister Jean-Pierre Raffarin. He came out and he said very much, what we need to know now is clear up that ambiguity. Is this continuing? Are these practices still going on? Because it's been a little over 3 years since that last document.
All right, so a bit of a history lesson there. Now give us a geography lesson, if you will, because it's important for people who don't know Paris to understand where the presidential palace is and where the spying took place.
Well, you said a few blocks away from each other. I mean, they're actually closer. It's about almost 200 meters or so. The U.S. Embassy you can't be better located if you wanted to mount a spy operation. And, you know, U.S. embassies all over the world, it's an open secret. They have little cells in there for the CIA, the NSA, bristling with a lot of communications equipment. In this case, you have it smack on an edge of Place de la Concorde in central Paris. Paris. If you back up enough into the center of Place de la Concorde, you could actually look up onto the roof and see some of those bristling antenna and communications equipment. So it's not even totally hidden, only partially.
There's the map there.
And
we can
you
see.
can see it. So look, you have the presidential palace right down the street where François Hollande was huddling with his defense and intelligence chiefs today. You have the foreign ministry right nearby. You have a lot of other ministries. You have the interior ministry right nearby. If you're looking to spy, if you're looking to tap on the communications of high-level French officials, you couldn't be better located in Paris.
Louis Bernard, put yourself in the shoes of the local station chief for one of the intelligence services. Again, looking at that location, what would you do if you were in his or her shoes?
It's hard to answer this question. Obviously, this station chief would have strict orders to get as much information as possible about his or her host countries.
I was going to say, maybe a better question would be, what would a good spy do?
Exactly what they did. Well, a good spy would, spy. So obviously, given that they have a brilliant location in the middle of Paris, very close to the presidential palace, very close to the Foreign Affairs Office, very close to the Assemblée Nationale, where the members of parliament sit every day. You would do what you are called to do, and you would do whatever you can to actually gather as much information as possible. What the problem, I guess, behind this is, why wouldn't you, given how easy it seems to be? So, getting from the French perspective, how easy can it be to tap the phones not only of one, but of three consecutive presidents? What does it show as far as
because
security?
We can understand in the case of Jacques Chirac, he left office, what was it, in
2007?
2007. Maybe at the time he didn't quite grasp or whatever, but how could they still be able to spy on successive French presidents? What does that say about France?
Exactly. What does it say about France? It's a hard question to answer. Apparently, it's not the hardest thing at all to tap into the private conversation, not only actually of presidents, but also of their close aides and collaborators.
Does it have to be on the phone, or can you?
Yes, it's all on the. Technically, I don't know. It's close enough for it to be recorded by other means, I would guess. But apparently, some of the phones were just tapped, which apparently it's easy. I can send you an SMS with a little app on it, which uploads itself without you noticing, and then I tap your phone. Apparently, it's not that hard to do. And the problem is, when you read the newspaper Libération this morning, is that a lot of secrets were gathered not through tapping the phones of the president themselves, but the people working for them. In preparation, for example, for the big meeting of Nicolas Sarkozy with Barack Obama, the few days before, the people preparing that meeting were talking to each other with the French ambassador to Washington. It was all recorded by the NSA.
All right, one reaction coming in for us on Twitter. France Leaks shows it again. Europe is just a target and adversary in the global game played by the U.S. government. Let me turn to you, Senator Pozzo di Borgo. Are you surprised?
No, no, not surprised. But we have a problem. We have allies in defense cooperation with the USA. We have allies against the terrorism. We belong to the same organization, the NATO. And you need to imagine the French embassy in Washington is not in France or the White House. Imagine that the French embassy was in front of the White House. And since 10 years, the French listened to the President Obama or the President Bush. You think that the Americans say, oh, okay. I don't understand why in France. Since 10 years, because the service knows this, since 10 years, the President Chirac, the President Sarkozy and the President Hollande don't say, stop to the American. We're allies. It's not correct to do this.
Well, should they have expelled the ambassador?
No. I think we need to speak with the American and say, stop to this. We're allies. We can speak with them. We know that you listen us. Stop it. Since 10 years. It's not correct. And I think it's the fault of the French president, because Chirac, Sarkozy, Hollande say, to the Parlement. I know the jurists tell me, stop it, stop it. I am not like de Gaulle, we say, the nation has no friends. We are friends with USA. And I think this is a very bad thing. Why the Americans do this? Because they consider France like a vassals.
What's interesting in the reactions we're getting from viewers is they seem to feel as though the embarrassment is not on the US side, but on the European side. We have another tweet coming in. Considering that the EU leaders all accept a situation where they take their orders from the US, this shouldn't come as a surprise. Is that an exaggeration? Do Europeans take their orders from the US?
Sorry, but repeat. Sorry.
Do Europeans take their orders from the United States?
For example, you have European Council, for example, about Ukraine. Before the European Council, the Polish, Tusk, the Baltic countries,
The Baltic countries.
the Baltic countries, the countries of the north of the Europe, have speak with the American, and when you arrive to the European Council, they arrive and they defend the position of the American. I don't know if it is, we depend on American, but I see in European Council, next time, not the European Council we have in 1 week, next time, 2 months ago, Tusk arrived against Merkel and against Obama with the thinking of the American. He say, no, we need to augment, to increase the sanctions. And Merkel and Hollande say, no, sanction, I need to put it to not increase, but you need to put sanction to the hand of the Accord of Minsk. You understand it? Yeah. And we have a problem with Americans because they consider many countries like vassals. And the France is the same.
Etienne Drouin, what's the conclusion you draw from reading the revelations that we saw in the French press?
2 weeks ago, Edward Snowden gave an interview saying that he was about to leak some information in order to show that he was against the French law on intelligence, which has just been adopted yesterday and which is now sent to the Supreme Court, the Conseil constitutionnel. So why does it happen now? It happens now because it has been leaked now in order to say that French would like to copy the US system for intelligence. And this is not with the right guarantees and balance of powers. So beyond
WikiLeaks, Edward Snowden's not a member of WikiLeaks, just to point that out.
Oh, he said that he would release some information. WikiLeaks releases the information that we have today. And the momentum is not a surprise because it has a direct relationship with the French parliamentary debate on the law on intelligence. And the goal of this is good for French people and for French government and also for the US government, saying that we may spy you, but you are going to do the same with your French law. So 0 to 0, we are ready to go on the further step.
All right, a zero-sum game. But it gets back to what Douglas Herbert was saying. Are these revelations new? We don't quite know if that spying has gone on since 2013.
You and I, we didn't know that. We didn't have this map, which is obvious because every day you can be in Paris, going from the embassy, the U.S. embassy to the Élysée Palace. So we knew these risks. They are now revealed, and it doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from also a French calendar.
What's new, if I may add, is that it's public. It's on the web, it's on Libération and the website Mediapart. And now everybody knows about it, everybody talks about it, which forces the French government to comment about it. And of course, to play it hard a little bit.
Okay, let's talk about those revelations then. The one that struck in most people's mind is the one of former President Sarkozy saying, I'm the one who can solve the financial crisis back in 2008.
Yeah,
what else have you learned from reading these revelations?
Precisely this leaked report saying that Sarkozy thought about himself about the only person who could save Europe with the Georgia crisis and the financial crisis. That's not news, is it? I mean, just by reading the press in 2008, you would see that President Sarkozy thought that about himself. So there is enough, and with the rest of the reports, there is not that much that is new, which gets me to think that maybe maybe more is to come with real news, but all I've read today was not much more than what I would have read in the press at the time.
It's an interesting point in the sense that you could make the argument that the NSA did it the hard way. They collected, with all this extremely high-tech, expensive equipment, collected phone conversations by tapping the leader's calls. And like we just heard, you could have just picked up almost any random paper if you were a reader of the French press back in 2008, or if we were talking about 2012, perhaps not the exact timing of these documents, but you would have learned also it was no great secret that François Hollande was very worried about the Greek situation, the possibility that Greece would be exiting the Eurozone. He was very much taken aback by what he considered a very rigid approach by the German Chancellor Angela Merkel. And the news in these leaked documents, the revelation, so to speak, is really not a revelation. The fact that he essentially went behind Chancellor Merkel's back and invited the head of the German opposition party, the SPD, to Paris to hold what are being called in these documents secret meetings with which his own prime minister of the time advised him not to hold, not to talk about in case it might take the public the wrong way. But we knew all of that.
So what does it say about U.S. intelligence?
It shows that there's probably a lot cheaper way to do it. You could subscribe to a few good French newspapers and just read them regularly and cut and paste.
One thing perhaps is a mistake, but 2 days ago, the Europeans said to maintain sanctions against Russia. And so then live in Russia. And for example, today arrive Wikileaks informations to put something between USA and Europe, and USA and France. I think it's just an idea I give you.
Etienne Drouin,
I was also reading carefully the declaration from President Obama when he said that we don't listen to François Hollande. It means we may listen to any French people, but not the president.
It is a politician promise.
And for me, the next step is a risk for President Obama for a false statement on this, because he doesn't know what will be published. But I'm sure that this is not the end of the story.
And actually, it has been the case in previous month that President Obama seemed to actually catch up with the NSA and seemed to discover as time went how much information they were gathering without him knowing exactly the amount of surveillance, for example, on the American people, on American soil. Apparently, it was not exactly news to him, but the extent of it probably was. So it might be, again, one of the cases, like Angela Merkel, who took a fight with President Obama when she knew that one of her phones, seldom used phone, was tapped. And then 1 year after, we see that the BND, the German Secret Service, did exactly the same with French interests.
Did exactly the same. And of course, the U.S. president, who recently saw Congress change the rules on intelligence gathering. We'll see if it's going to change the way spying works around the world. When we come back, you're watching the France 24 debate.